Hello, Calling Up community. I am Claudia Alec, and today I am going to be speaking more slowly than I did in the webinar for freelancers, where we were sharing best practices for gathering online or transforming your physically embodied practice into a blended practice of physical embodiment and also being in digital spaces. So I first talked a little bit about what transmedia is, and I've got like a 5-minute video just on that alone. But in a nutshell, we are talking about mixing physically embodied and digitally present extensions of the narrative that can be either experienced in an asynchronous way or via live reception. And I gave as an example of a company that works in that sort of in those dual modalities. I gave the example of New Paradise Laboratories as a company that works in various places, but there are a lot of companies that are doing this. There's this amazing theater company that they did like a play and they had a podcast as part of it. Part of my advice for folks is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Actually, people have been developing these practices for years. For instance, long before I was disabled and needing to use all of these remote at a distance technologies, I was using them to collaborate across the world. So when I did my Shakespeare Iraq project, I was collaborating via Skype. One-to-one conversation with collaborators talking about stuff. Then based on that conversation, that person would go off and work with the group. Then that group, what did they do? They created a video that I then in turn used to help raise money for them. So it's that kind of exchange where the video is never a replacement for. It is something in addition to the live experience. But there are also places and times where you're going to want to have a live blended modality. I talked a little bit about the examples of a theater action gun control project that I did with the Every 28 Hours plays, where the Protest Plays project wanted people to produce a bunch of plays. I recognized that I would like to activate my national base and ask them to do something that would have reverberating impacts and amplify the movement. So I invited people. There was a very short Idris Goodwin play. I gave it to folks. They did various iterations. So one amazing transmedia artist made a Twitter account of the play, and each post was a line from the play. Another group of artists, they just sat in their classroom and just sat on the edge of the stage and read the play to us. Another person did a YouTube video. Some people did actual videos where they used camera shots and they added sound effects and that kind of thing. There is something that is lost when you move away from the live embodied where you're both in physical space. Like, there is something magical that takes place communicatively between human bodies that are near each other. So when you are creating those additional materials, you do want to think about, when do I want to make sure it's not just like a long setup? Maybe I want to figure out how to do a 3-camera shoot, how to have close-ups. Or for instance, I was talking about producing a play reading on the computer, and I was saying you're actually, instead of doing the thing you're thinking about, which is replicating the play reading model where you have people standing at stands and doing a 1-camera shot of that, instead have everyone do what I'm doing right now here with you, have everyone use a Skype or a Zoom or some kind of online platform that allows you all to participate. So I gave people the protestplays.org, but I gave them the every20hoursplays.org website as an example of some different ways this work can live in digital spaces. Now the last and most important point that I had to make before I go into just some basics and best practices was we need to learn from the disabled community. Disabled people have been developing the best practices and advocating for the ways to work and connect remotely for years. There's a reason why there's a hashtag disabled and salty AF. It's because suddenly people are embracing this because of a necessity for everybody, which is why the social model of disability is a thing. because it was a choice to not lean into creating these additional systems that allowed for remote productivity. It's all tied to capitalist systems. All right. So, I did recommend that people reach out to disabled practitioners. For instance, when I was putting together it was a town hall, a digital, as well as I guess live embodied, because there was like 20 people actually in the space with us, and then like maybe 40 online. When I was putting that together, I reached out specifically to my Unsettling Dramaturgy cohort and to Mia Amir and Rue Delesson. I'm going to leave a link because I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it. I know I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. I apologize. I reached out to them, and Rue got right back to me. I was very grateful and gave some really great feedback on, this is how rooms work when you are doing this type of gathering. What I was doing was I was doing a dramaturgical consultancy with experts in managing digital performance in spaces, specifically around knowledge exchange. So, best practices. You're going to have to plan. You're going to have to anticipate needing more time to plan or needing to invest more time in that planning. Why? Because everybody hasn't spent the last 20 years coming up with a shorthand language to understand how all this works. So it does mean you will have to slow down and give people directions for how to access your digital space. It's the equivalent of inviting somebody to come to see your play. Maybe you don't give them the best directions to get to your theater, or maybe your door is on the side and you didn't tell them that and they have to go around the entire building to find the entrance. Your digital platform is only as useful as the user's ability to use it. So that means you might need to budget more time to make sure everyone feels like they can access your digital space. But also, you need to embed within these live exchanges, you need to embed proper expectations, because truthfully, none of us are equipped to do this work at 100% efficacy. A lot of us are living in areas that don't have strong Wi-Fi. Some of us don't have the kind of equipment or the computer programs that would allow us to do this kind of digital connectivity in a really fast and efficient way. As well as some of us not having the experience of doing this on a daily basis. So that means lower your expectations and be okay with imperfect digital exchanges. However, there's something amazing that can happen with these digital exchanges. First of all, they allow for asynchronous collaboration and reception and exchange. That's so vital and important for accessibility. It means that you can have thousands of people experiencing something, and they don't have to all experience it at the same time. But if it's designed correctly, they are all having exchange with each other. I gave as an example the communication agreements for digital spaces document that we put together for the calling up practice, specifically because in one of our first meetings we discovered, the basic communication agreements that we had for meeting in live space failed us in digital space, and we just needed a few more things. For instance, what are the best practices for muting yourself, etc. Ultimately, during this time of crisis around COVID-19, we are doing social distancing. And I have been repeating this phrase over and over again. Social distancing should not mean social isolation. And in fact, what you need to do now more than ever is reach out. Reach out using your digital tools. Text message a friend. Go to the social media platforms of your choice. Reach out that way. Call someone on the phone. Or join me online for any of the engagements we will be doing. There's also, I'm going to leave a link to the Transmedia Performance Facebook group we recently began, just as a space for people to exchange resources and also to share all of their fresh new ways of sharing their work in ways that, frankly, are more accessible to me, which is deeply exciting. I love the idea that potentially I might be able to attend plays even on the days where I'm unable to get out of the bed because of my physical body. I will still be able to see the play, enjoy the play, and even possibly have the feeling of audiencing in company via that digital platform. All right, Calling Up community, I'm going to leave a link to the amazing webinar that was organized by some really just, I can't say enough how impressed I was by the leadership and organization of how this webinar was put together. So I will leave a link to that below, and I will wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your time, Calling Up community. Be patient with each other. We need each other. Connect.